You handle it. All day, every day, you handle it. The meeting, the inbox, the small talk, the question, "How are you?" And you say fine, because you are fine. You are efficient and present and completely okay. And then you lie down. And it starts. The thing you said at lunch. Did it come out wrong? The email from your manager that you haven't fully processed. The conversation from 3 days ago that you keep rewinding. The version of your future that doesn't work out. The list of everything you should have done differently, which apparently your brain has been saving for exactly this moment. It's 2:47 a.m. You look completely fine, and you are completely awake. But here's what nobody tells you about this. It's not that you're anxious. It's not that something is fundamentally wrong with you. It's that your brain has been doing something very specific all day. And the night is the only time it finally gets to finish. You've probably never told anyone about the nighttime version of yourself. Because how do you explain it? During the day, you function. You cope. You probably seem calm, even put together, to people around you. Nobody would guess. But at night, alone, lying in the dark, your brain decides that right now, is the perfect time to audit every decision you've ever made. Society has a lot of names for people like you. You've been told to relax. You've been told it's not a big deal. You've been told, probably more times than you can count, that you are too much. But here's what makes this specific. You are invisible. Nobody sees the overthinking. Nobody believes it's as bad as it is. Because by day, you're the capable one, the composed one, the one who has it together. And so you've been carrying a secret for years. The performance of calm during the day, the quiet unraveling at night, the exhaustion of being two completely different people. That gap between who you appear to be and what happens when you're alone isn't random. It's structurally produced by how your brain works. And today, we're going to look at exactly why. But today, I want to offer you a different perspective, one that's a little less about willpower and a lot more about neuroscience. What's happening to you has a name. Psychologists call it the emotional backlog, the accumulation of feelings, reactions, and unresolved experiences that arrive throughout the day but never get properly processed because the daytime brain is too busy running the show. Here's the thing. Think of your brain like an inbox. During the day, messages pour in constantly. Small irritations, moments that stung a little, decisions you're not sure about, interactions you couldn't fully absorb in real time. Your brain's response? File it as, deal with this later. Night is when later arrives. The person who seems fine during the day and collapses at night isn't running from their emotions. They're running the only schedule their brain was given space for. You are not an overthinker. You are someone with an overdue inbox and no scheduled processing time. That is a fixable problem. But to understand why the backlog forms and why it floods in specifically at night, we have to look at what your brain is actually doing while you try to sleep. To understand why this happens, we have to look at your brain. First, the prefrontal amygdala disconnect. During the day, your prefrontal cortex acts like a calm, experienced manager. Every time an emotional event arrives, a tense exchange, a small failure, a flash of worry, the prefrontal cortex receives it, labels it, puts it in context, and files it with a note. Manageable. As you approach sleep, that manager clocks out. The amygdala, your brain's threat detection and emotional memory system, stays fully active, but it's now operating without supervision. Every flagged item from the day resurfaces with no one to contextualize it. A 2007 study from UC Berkeley found that the emotional centers of the brain become over 60% more reactive after disrupted sleep. But even on a normal night, the shift in prefrontal activity as you wind down creates a version of this effect. Your threat system is running at full volume. Your rational context provider has gone quiet. The analogy: during the day, the manager is at the desk. At night, the manager has left, and the alarm system is still on. Every noise feels like a break-in, even when it's just the wind. This is why the 2 a.m. version of a work disagreement feels catastrophic, while the 2 p.m. version felt manageable. You are processing the same event, with fundamentally different neural architecture in charge. This is why the 2 a.m. version feels catastrophic, but that's only part of it. Second, the default mode network. When your brain has no task to focus on, it doesn't simply rest. It switches to a built-in default mode. Neurologist Marcus Rachel first described this in 2001. He called it the default mode network, the system that activates during rest, reflection, and self-referential thinking. During the day, external demands suppress the DMN. Tasks, conversations, decisions. They all act like a hand holding the volume dial down. The moment the external world goes quiet, the DMN activates. Wild, right? What does the DMN do? It reviews, it replays, it runs simulations of past events and imagined futures. It asks, what does this mean about me? And then it loops through possible answers. Research shows that DMN hyperconnectivity is directly linked to elevated rumination. And people who are high functioning during the day, suppressing that system through constant demand, often experience a dramatic activation of the DMN at night. Think of it as a night editor sitting at a desk, going through the unedited manuscript of your day. The editor is thorough. The editor is relentless. And the editor does not know when to stop. This is not a defect. It is a feature. Your brain is trying to make meaning out of your experiences. But without guardrails, the DMN circles the same wounds without resolution. This is why you can watch Netflix for 3 hours and feel fine. And then the moment the TV goes off, everything floods back. You didn't clear the inbox. You just briefly distracted the editor. And this is where it gets more specific. Third, the rumination loop. There's a difference between processing an emotion and ruminating on it. Both look like thinking. Only one of them helps. Psychologists define rumination as circular, self-focused thought that does not produce resolution. The key word is circular. The brain revisits the same event repeatedly, but instead of moving toward closure, it experiences each cycle as a new open loop, which actually deepens the anxiety rather than clearing it. Problem solving asks, what can I do? Rumination asks, what does this mean about me? One moves forward, one moves in circles. The nighttime overthinker is almost always in the second category, not because they're broken, but because the night offers no available action. You can't fix the email at 3 a.m. You can't have the conversation. You can't change the decision. So the brain spins. Stay with me, because here's the evolutionary piece. This drive was adaptive. In a world where social rejection meant exclusion from the group, and exclusion meant death, the brain that obsessively replayed social missteps and prepared for every possible threat was the brain that survived. Natural selection kept this pattern because it worked. But the office email is not a saber-toothed cat. And your brain hasn't received that update. Now, I need to make space for a very important distinction. Everything we've covered so far describes a brain that is functioning as designed. A high-processing, highly observant mind whose emotional work gets pushed to the end of the day. But sometimes, the pattern we're describing isn't a scheduling issue. Sometimes it's a signal. There is a difference between being fine during the day and performing fine during the day. If your daytime okay is exhausting, if staying busy is a system for not feeling things, then the nighttime isn't just clearing a backlog. It's a signal that the backlog was built on avoidance, that the daytime suppression has a cost that's arriving every night with interest. So here is the question worth sitting with, honestly. When you say you're fine during the day, are you fine? Or are you just not yet alone with yourself? Only you can answer that. And if the nighttime is accompanied not just by busy thoughts, but by persistent dread, low mood during the day, or the sense that you are fundamentally not okay, that goes beyond a protocol, that is worth talking to someone about. So here is my proposal for you. Not a meditation app, not a wind-down routine, something more fundamental. The goal is not to stop nighttime thinking. The goal is to reduce what arrives there. The protocol is called the emotional pre-processing window, a deliberately scheduled 10 to 15-minute slot, ideally between 5 p.m. and 8 p.m., before night closes in, where you sit with the day's unprocessed emotional material. This is not journaling as a hobby. This is a neurological intervention. Here's how it works. 3 questions. That's it. 1. What happened today that I didn't fully process? 2. What am I actually feeling about it? 3. Is there anything I can do about it tonight, or does it go on tomorrow's list? That third question is the mechanism. It separates real problems, which get assigned an action, from emotional residue, which just needs to be acknowledged, not solved, filed. The neuroscience behind this: when you name an emotion, the prefrontal cortex re-engages. A 2007 study from UCLA found that labeling an emotional experience, even briefly, measurably reduces amygdala activation. You don't need to solve the problem. You need to signal to your brain that the item has been received. You don't need to solve it tonight. You need to file it. Do this in any form that works. A notebook, a voice memo, a walk without headphones. The format matters less than the signal it sends. The day's processing window is open, the inbox is being cleared, and anything still unresolved has a place in line. Do not scroll through your emotions and then open Netflix. Name one thing, file it, close the tab. That is the rep. You are training a new habit for your brain. You are not an overthinker. You are someone whose brain has been running a 24-hour shift with no scheduled break. The nights are loud because no one ever told your brain that it was allowed to process before the lights went out. That's not a flaw. That's a staffing problem. And staffing problems have solutions. Start with one day, one window, 15 minutes before 8 p.m. Name what happened. File it. Close the tab. Your nights will start to get quieter. Not because you fixed yourself, because you've finally given your brain somewhere to go. If this landed, subscribe. I make one video a week for people who think more than they let on.